Have you ever heard of new paint syndrome? I hadn't heard about it, but I had a friend when we came here to this church about 30 years ago that he was talking about how a lot of us get bit by new paint bug or new paint syndrome. And I said, "What is that?" And he says, "It's when you got a vehicle and it's 3 or 4 or 5 years old and it doesn't look as shiny and fancy as it did when you first bought it. And boy, the new shiny, new paint vehicles look good. And we think maybe it's time to trade this in and move up to something that looks nicer." And we used to joke about people driving around in their old farm truck tied together with baling twine or baling wire. I'm in a farming community, so that's a image maybe you don't appreciate. But new paint syndrome is something that all of us struggle with, even if it doesn't have to do with shiny new truck or a shiny new car. It's something new and shiny, and it appeals to our eyes. I'm Pastor Tim Holscher, and we are looking at the ministry of the Spirit in the life of the believer. And the Spirit leads us to set our minds in Christ, and then He's going to lead us then, as our minds are set there, to opportunities to serve others. And one of those things that we do in serving others is we love them, or really I should say we love them by serving them. And the distraction of the world, distracting our love, that our love becomes obsessed with things that we acquire, things that we use to define ourselves, things that appeal to the eye gate. Now, I had a very good friend many years ago that used to say, in our modern culture, with the advent of portable music and all of the different things we have, people listening to radios everywhere they go in their cars, and now we've got them on our phones and such, and we listen to stuff all of the time, that the ear gate, he wondered at times whether if John were writing this in the modern era, if he would have included that also. Because, well, when I was growing up, you used to listen to the radio, and the radio advertised new vehicles like the TV did. It just couldn't do it with a flashy image of a car, but you had the image in your mind. And however exactly that might be, I believe when we come over here to 1 John 2:15, when John tells us to not love the world, neither the things that are in the world, because if anyone loves the world, then the love for the Father is not in him. We as Christians try to play this both ways. We try to figure out some way that it's okay for us to love the world and still try to tell ourselves or convince ourselves we're loving the Father. But John says you can't. It doesn't work. He says, for all that is in the world, the lust for the flesh, we talked about that. The lust for the eyes. There's an appeal through the eyes. The world system is designed to make an appeal through our eyes, saying, isn't this what you want? Isn't this what looks good? Jesus talked about this in the Sermon on the Mount. And we haven't talked about this a great deal, but the Sermon on the Mount isn't really about our conduct. It was about Israel and the kingdom. But having said that, that doesn't mean that there aren't things that we learn in the kingdom, in the Sermon on the Mount. And in Matthew 6:19, he is telling these Jews, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. Interesting enough, we have in the letters written to the church, we actually kind of have a similar idea. You ought not to put your hope in the uncertain riches. And what's one way people put hope in the uncertain riches here on earth? We treasure them up on earth. We store them up. And Jesus says, where moth and rust destroys, thieves break through and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart is. In other words, if you know that the things you invest your life in, from our perspective, the things that you really invest yourself into, if you know that those things really are related to what God is doing, your heart's there where you make decisions. But if your life is set on the stuff here in this world and the fact that I've got this much in this bank account and this much in this bank and in this retirement account and I've acquired all these things and all this other stuff, I've got a safe and I've got gold and, all kinds of people have different ways that they do this. if that becomes something that you are very obsessed with and focused on, that's going to show you where your heart is, and you're going to end up making decisions based on that stuff here in this world versus your relationship to God. And he then says in Matthew 6:22, the eye is the lamp of the body. In other words, it's the vehicle or the organ through which God brings, or the body is designed to bring light into itself, that God has designed it that way. So then if your eye is clear, and this word clear is a word in the Greek meaning that it's not tainted, it's not mixed, it's simple, meaning it's focused on this. It's not trying to go, God, all this stuff in the world, God, stuff in the world, I want to do both, I want to do both. And you're going to see that in just a moment with a comment that Jesus is making. So in other words, if the eye is simple, if it's clear, if it's focused on what it's supposed to be focused on in this way, then your whole body is full of light. But if your eye is, and he uses this word that's translated bad, and the interesting thing about this, it's the word paneros, which is a word for evil that means it's an evil that spreads. But the base of this word paneros is that has to do with pain. Which to me is interesting because it's this evil, this bad that spreads. It spreads to others, and it doesn't cause comfort. It brings grief and pain. And so he says, if your eye is bad or if it's evil in this way, then your whole body is full of darkness. And if then the light that is in you is darkness, then that darkness is really great. Now he comes to 6:24, and he's going to tell you what he's talking about. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he'll be devoted to one, despise the other. You cannot serve God. And this word wealth was just simply a word for it was the word mammon when I was growing up in the King James, but it had to do with wealth. And he says you can't serve both. That doesn't mean that God doesn't allow some people to have wealth. And he has wealth for his purposes. I don't know why God allows some people to be wealthy. I had a friend that used to say God doesn't trust some Christians with wealth because he knows that we can't handle it. But that's not it at all. It's just that he chooses for some people to have it and some people to have to be dependent on others. That's all it is. It's his decision and his choice. It doesn't have to do with, your character and whether you can. I've known people that are, as Christians, are wealthy and they have poor character. And they put too much trust in their wealth. And I've known people with wealth as Christians that they don't put their trust in their wealth. And they are very kind with others in trying to be helpful. So that's not it. But he says you can't serve both. And isn't that what he was saying? We're talking about that plainness, that simplicity of the eye, that you can't serve both of those things. So here's a place where there are lusts for the eye, where we're looking, in this case, at wealth. And sometimes that wealth is defined by something easily seen. It's seen by the clothes I wear. It's seen by the new paint that my brand new vehicle has. It's seen by whatever thing is appealing to the human eye. And the world system uses the appeal of the human eye to bait us into loving it and its stuff. But I think there is one other last interesting verse on the eye that the Apostle Paul calls us to in Hebrews 12:2. He says, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. If you go back and you read the end of chapter 10 in this book, you find out these people had their property seized, and they took it with joy. But in the intervening time, some of them had become frustrated and despondent now because they can't participate in Judaism, and they want to just abandon the church and stick with Judaism. And he says, you need to fix your eyes on Jesus. The world's going to bait us on what looks good. And one of those things, even in the world that looks good, is religion. I see your religion because I see you go up and you're dedicated because you dress yourself a certain way when you're up there. I can see this mournful look when you're supposed to be mourning. I can see the way you sing. I can see all of this stuff up there at the temple. I can see you bringing the sacrifices and the offerings. And it's all a show. In fact, Jesus even called those people that did that, he called them hypocrites. That is, they are outwardly something that is not real inside. And these people needed to, rather than being worried about that, they need to fix their eyes on Jesus and say, there's something better and more important than being able to participate in these rituals of Judaism. This is done. It's over. I've got better things in Christ. And when we do that, when we focus on better things, we focus on Jesus and what he's accomplished, and now focus on the fact that he sits at the Father's right hand, even though he went through some hard stuff enduring the cross. We now can remember that we share that place where he sits at the Father's right hand. And we're able to say, and I share that with all these other people, and they should be the objects of my love rather than all that stuff down there on the earth that looks shiny. But in light of what God is doing, that shine is pale, it rusts, it tarnishes. It's not that great. We have better things in Christ. Fix your eyes on him. Love the brothers. And don't love this world and its stuff. Don't love the things that just look good to the eyes and are appealing to the eyes. Love the brothers. That's a good way to keep our heads straight, remembering who we are in Christ, remembering all of them. And I encourage you, with that in mind, that as you focus on who you are in Christ and they are, that you go on today and have a good day in the Lord. Thank you for joining me.